For there is nothing hidden that will not be disclosed, and nothing concealed that will not be known or brought out into the open. Luke chapter 8. Verse 17. Look, I know it's a bit of a stretch to try link this anime with that verse, but I hope you forgive me because this show is utterly insane, and someone like me trying to bring some semblance of sanity is a notion which appears to be even mocked by the show itself. The only thing I knew about Shikanoko Noko Noko Koshtantan was the insane trailer, this brain-dead video loop that caught my attention, and I think that's literally all you need to know about this anime. It certainly doesn't have the best animation. It uses CG for all of the deer that show up in this anime. It doesn't even have an appearance of a narrative, but it is purely due to its insanity that I absolutely adore this show, and I think you will too. Though I think you're here for the Christian connection, and this anime actually has some cool underlying themes which intersect with Christianity. I was fully serious with that verse at the beginning because we see how one of the main characters, Koshtan, has one of her secrets so blatantly exposed. Looking at the first episode, we're introduced to Koshtan, who's just making her way to school when suddenly she saves this random girl from tripping by chance. And we're told by the narrator that she's just like this perfect girl in every way, someone who is smart, altruistic, athletic, attractive, to the point that she's become the student council president and not only recognized and praised at school, but also someone who is acknowledged by her local community. However, Koshtan has a deep and dark secret that all of these things were simply a cover to distance herself from her troubled past. She's actually a former delinquent, and she's only doing these things to keep up the appearance of being the perfect girl. I think this is actually a really important point to reflect on as Christians. How much of our own lives, what we do and what we say, are based on the keeping up of appearances? Or is it out of a genuine heart of love that we do the things that we do? How much of our relationship with God is performative, and how much of it is out of a genuine desire to engage in relationship with our Heavenly Father? Because if we do have a secret agenda, then in the words of Jesus, there is nothing concealed that will not be brought out into the open. It's a trap of thinking that some of us may be far too quick to fall in, and certainly a trap that our dearest Koshtan has also fallen in. However, things are about to change for Koshtan as she walks past what looks like someone who's decided to hang themselves, but upon closer inspection is actually a deer with antlers or something. This is what I meant at the start, that Shikanoko Noko Noko Koshtantan is actually this insane exercise in throwing the most random things on screen, and it's incredibly funny because of it. At the time of writing, I just recently finished watching the 4th episode, and this is truly accentuated in that episode and makes for one really enjoyable experience. I love throughout the whole series that there's so much fourth wall breaking. It really sets the tone of the anime that we are meant to point and laugh and not think too hard about this show. A memo that I obviously did not catch, as I am now talking about the Christian themes of this anime in this video. Then a bunch of things happen, and then suddenly this dear girl basically exposes Koshtan for having had a delinquent past, to the point that she's actually called out for it during class. Hence that Christian connection, that while Koshtan wanted to hide her true feelings, it seems that Shikanoko has brought out into the light what has been hidden. So am I saying that Shikanoko is basically God, that in the same way that God reveals everything that is hidden, so too has Shikanoko done the same? No, I have decided not to blaspheme today, but I'm just making a comparison as to how the spiritual world, and that includes God, is usually discounted and ignored. The belief that with our own human efforts and schemes, we are basically able to get away with everything and anything we desire, especially in our own lives. However, in reality, the world is basically the same as how things occur in this anime. This supernatural being known as Shikanoko was able to completely expose Koshtan's secret to her peers in a matter of minutes. And yes, I know it's a work of fiction, but if these are the words we read in Luke, that God is fully able to bring everything which is hidden into the light, then I think we too should live our lives this way, in full recognition that God is eventually going to bring to light your deepest, darkest secrets, just as Shikanoko did with Koshtan. Moving on to the second episode, and you won't believe it, but there's a demonstration as to how worldly love can be misguided and result in negative consequences. The constant battle cry of the progressive is that love is love, and that all forms of love are valid and should not be judged. However, when we take a look at the Bible, God has actually provided us with parameters over what should be considered as love. For example, the notion that love is sacrificial. That perfect example for which we see this is through the person of Jesus. Paul further substantiates this in 1 Corinthians 13, that love is described as patient, kind, not envious nor boastful, neither is it proud nor dishonoring of others. It is not self-seeking nor easily angered. It always protects, trusts, hopes, and perseveres. The reason I lay out all of these parameters is because we have in this anime a perfect example of misguided love. Koshtan's younger sister, Anko, claims that she absolutely loves her sister, but even from her short introduction, we can observe the many ways that Anko doesn't actually possess love for her sister. In many ways, she is self-seeking and distrustful. She dishonors her sister's friend in the way that she treats Nokotan. True love would be the ability to accept sacrificing the time spent with the loved one out of respect for their personal boundaries. But what Anko possesses is this misguided obsession over another human being, to simply treat Koshtan as an object of one's desire without the respect of her humanity. Episode 2 of Shikanoko Noko Noko Koshtan Tan and the character of Anko is actually a really interesting case study of how our perception of love can actually become something which is in complete contradiction with the notion of love itself. It's the same mistake that the world makes, that one's feeling of sexual desire and sexual drive are the sole parameters for which love can be defined. It's the reason why we see so much degeneracy in the rise of the alphabet cult and in the ways that people have lowered themselves by basing their entire identities over their sexual preference. It is in heterosexual relationships that we see the most damage, that this view of love can be best observed. We see so many families broken as a result of divorce because couples no longer see marriage as being something that is supposed to be lasting. That love is a deliberate action and an intentional mindset that one has towards people around us. Love isn't something that is just lost as your sexual desire for your partner is also lost. God's design for love is something that is far greater and far more impactful than what the world could ever imagine. So, as we come to the end of the video, I want to make this clear that these are really serious themes and certainly timeless messages that could be explored in a deeper and more delicate manner. But the way that Shikanoko Noko Noko Koshtan Tan has presented these ideas in a way which is incredibly absurdist and exaggerated means that these themes aligning with Christian values are actually there. They are simply included in a subtle way which doesn't conflict and alter the way that the comedy is also written. I do want to be careful in saying this because while there hasn't been any fan service or any other big issues in these first few episodes, as Christians, we should still be critically thinking of the stuff that we watch. However, it is in light of these themes and of my own personal enjoyment of this anime that I am certainly confident in saying that my dear friend Nokotan is indeed a Christian anime. If you are interested in other anime that intersect with Christian values, I'd recommend you watch this video on how Kaiju number 8 perfectly demonstrates how faith actually doesn't contradict evidence and how we can apply our beliefs in the real world.